The simulation of a cyber attack. So you should feel just a little bit uncomfortable in this session, and maybe at the end you'll decide to make your colleagues at the company you work with every day a little bit uncomfortable too, because doing that is like an inoculation. You're now on the board of a company called Acme, and great news, you're gathered to review the plans for launching a fantastic new product, and your IT director says everything's fine. You know, we've tested it, works really well, really happy. The interface is great, very low latency, wonderful product. Oh, hang on. We've got a new executive director. I'm sorry about this, Chairman, but they say that it's all good might not necessarily be sufficient. So let's vote. So you all voted on that, and you were all at the level that you're invited to remain on the board because you've asked for evidence. Well done. You have legal obligations now, if you're a director of Acme, to protect the business. However, having accepted the evidence that Joe gave you, of whatever protocol he referred to, just as you're leaving the boardroom, you get this message. This has come in. You need to think about who to tell. So you all voted on that, and you were all at the level that you're invited to remain on the board because you've asked for evidence. Well done. You have legal obligations now, if you're a director of Acme, to protect the business. However, having accepted the evidence that Joe gave you, of whatever protocol he referred to, just as you're leaving the boardroom, you get this message. You've said primarily that you want to tell the IT team. Joe, were we breached? Okay. Who voted for that? Anyone? Okay. And just quick, how long are you going to give Joe to give you the answers? You know, this is an emergency.
An hour.
An hour?
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Okay. You are the most executive of executives I've ever met. Yeah? All right. So, but that's a key question. Is there anybody here who works in IT forensics? Yeah? Great. And 20 seconds, if you were called in and given, well, even an hour, right? Can we pass over the microphone? Go on. It's almost like being in a football stadium. How long? You know, it's going to take 20 seconds for the microphone to reach you. How long are you actually going to need to find out, authoritatively, were you breached? Just behind you, sir. 20 seconds or an hour? Choose one.
An hour.
An hour. You would be able to tell within an hour whether they were breached?
No, we wouldn't.
Well, you're fired as well then. Yeah? How long, seriously, to know categorically, would you need? Never is the correct answer. Thank you, sir. Let's pass the microphone over to him. You're now our IT director. Congratulations.
That's a dangerous move.
Yeah, you're probably not going to last long, I have to tell you. Even though your IT director wasn't able to come back within 20 seconds, as an executive, you have other sources of information. Your IT director wasn't categorically able to tell you within 20 seconds or an hour whether you've really been breached. But look, you've received another message. And examining the file, you can see that there's details on 187 individuals, a couple of whom you recognise as VIP customers of Acme. And if that wasn't enough, there's another attachment which appears to show the network diagram. Is that your? We'll call you Joe for the purposes of this, if you're still with us. Yes, it is. It is your network diagram.
No, it's what we thought it was 3 months ago, and we haven't updated it since.
Excellent. Great answer. Because there might have been, for at least 3 months, somebody in your network reconfiguring it, if you haven't spotted it. Very sensitive information, financial, and in fact also some medical data on VIP customers has been breached. Right? This could really be used to commit fraud, for example, and identity theft against them. Yeah? You have an obligation there to look after them. You also have some other concerns, as your newly appointed IT director has pointed out. And there may be other things now going on in the whole of your network, so you're going to have to do quite a few things. Anybody already voting on this one? Yeah, fantastic, great. So let's bring up your responses. Wow. Some of you can continue to vote if you want. Taking executive decisions, and you've used the term immediately, which I believe is quite a technical term. Yeah? We've had various definitions. 20 seconds is an acceptable response to immediately. Would anybody be willing, of the 43% of you who said immediately, would any of you be willing to stretch not to 20 seconds but to 20 minutes before you notify? Is that reasonable?
Sorry, immediately means immediately implement the contingency plan for notifying customers.
That's absolutely what it should mean. All right, you're now promoted to be our Director of Business Continuity.
Oh my God. I resign.
Yeah, don't worry. The chairwoman is feeling slightly uncomfortable for her position now, the way you're coming up the ranks. All right, but quite seriously, you know, if an executive says, do this immediately, some people think that's what you mean. Yeah? And if you immediately notify, well, okay, 20 seconds. Dear Jonathan, we've been breached. Hit send. There's not time to do much more than that in 20 seconds. And even within an hour, would you also be willing to be promoted to be the Chief Customer Officer, because we need somebody to sign the bottom of the email? And I don't want to put my name on it. We've had several members who, you know, we brought in and they're literally arguing about, well, whose name goes on the bottom? Let alone the detail of the text that should be in there to adequately protect individuals.
The Koreans might still be in our systems if only you had invested in silver bullet security. We can stop the hackers if we disconnect for 3 days.
Oh, if only we'd invested in silver bullet security. I don't remember that ever getting to the agenda of the board. Yep, and now you're telling us that we should have had something like that. Sounds very defensive what you're doing. Also quite provocative. We can stop the hackers if we disconnect for 3 days. You know, and maybe we have a legal responsibility to take the advice. Then that's going to affect our cash flow. And sorry, what was the answer, Finance Director? 135 pounds a day. 135 million pounds a day. That's a decision that your IT director has just asked you to make. Joe's successor, and let's pass the microphone on, please, sir. Towards the front, actually, would be great. Yeah, because there are a lot of slopey shoulders over in that corner. Yeah. You know, maybe you should have asked before for that independent objective scoring terminology you can understand. You know, maybe you should have seen this before the breach happened. It's showing data on Acme and 99 of its peers and competitors. News has broken. This is now public. You're on the board of Acme. This could happen to any of you. Am I correct that you're on the board of Acme?
Yes.
You are? And obviously there are news reports that you've been breached.
Yes.
And I'm sure you do everything possible to protect your customers.
Absolutely.
So you purchase silver bullet security.
We would always consider all possible options as to whether they're appropriate or not.
Our informant tells us that you didn't buy silver bullet. Could you just confirm that for us?
We didn't.
You didn't buy silver bullet. So are you criminally negligent? Maybe now you should be thinking about, and I'll bring it up so that you can vote, how you're going to manage communications. Are you going to tell the social media team to stop the ad campaign? Are you going to tell them, look, we need a website that will address these sort of questions, including we're getting more and more of them coming into the call centre. We need to be able to point them to a website. Actually, on that subject, people are asking for advice. They're concerned about fraud. Maybe we need to have a script for the call centre to give that advice. In fact, actually, most of our employees are now being asked questions. We need to tell all of them about it. The media are interested, and frankly, they don't just want to hear from us. They're getting second and third opinions. Is there anybody that we could put forward to say, well, we know Acme, they have Cyber Essentials, ISO 27000, NIST implemented, they've done all the right things. Is there anyone who's going to speak in your corner, to be your advocate? Customer compensation, or at least something that will protect them. Identity theft, credit monitoring, something like that. Anybody think, if you were one of the 187 people whose financial details have been taken, would you want to have credit monitoring or identity theft protection provided by Acme? Anyone? Yeah, of course you would. Where are we? Put your hand up if you're still employed with Acme. Excellent. Because if we wanted to take it further, we could talk about advanced persistent threats, nation state, artificial intelligence. If we wanted to take it further, we could talk about how that call centre that you've got, very important, would typically be receiving an order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude, 10 to 100 times more calls that are not just of concerned customers, but because they're now waiting 20 seconds, 2 minutes, 20 minutes before you even answer the phone, are not just concerned but angry customers who are busy tweeting while they wait. This is scandalous. I expected to be answered in 20 seconds. Your communications did stay on, for email and everything else. We didn't take it as far as being sued, and some of the evidence that you should have retained for how you dealt with the situation. And most important of all is not the small print of your insurance policy, but the big letters, GDPR. Nobody mentioned the 4% fines that theoretically you might engage in, but you ought to be asking questions at this sort of level about what the threat to your business is. As executives, you don't all work in digital forensics. You're not expected to. Just as you don't all work in the collectibles, accounts payable, accounts receivable department in finance. But you do know how to interrogate the finance department. You do know how to interrogate sales and marketing. Right? You ought to be able to interrogate your colleagues, because actually, when Joe messes up, and Joe will mess up unless you make it a habit of asking good, detailed questions about different aspects of cybersecurity based on independent scores, which I can share with anyone who's interested afterwards, comparing your cybersecurity with others. Right? Unless you're having that kind of dialogue, then just as your finance department would atrophy and your marketing department would sit back and just have parties, and your sales department would just sit back and say, yes, sales is great, we had another fantastic lunch yesterday. Unless you have the ability to ask the right questions, you're not going to build cyber resilience. And unless you take a simulation like this back to your board and ask them, frankly, more probing questions than we can fit into this short slot, you will never be properly cyber resilient. But you've made great progress today. There's been some fantastic answers. Thank you very much all.